Hi guys, and welcome to my guide on how to build a gaming PC. Now on this part of the video I'll be going over the parts that I used. Should give you a rough idea of what sort of parts to go for, obviously mix and match, but this is a medium to high end PC build, primarily for gaming, graphic design, that sort of thing. So to start off I went with an Asus P8Z77V motherboard. Several reasons I chose this board. Number one, it's compatible with my CPU, it's a good overclocker, supports 3-way SLI, it has USB 3, has plenty of SATA ports, SATA 3 ports as well. Also has plenty of inputs and outputs, and yeah, it's an ATX board, and it has many features that are quite useful. Next I went for an Intel Core i5-3570K unlock processor. So this is a K-series part, so it's an unlock processor. I plan on overclocking it. It's a 4-core processor. Does not support hyperthreading, but that's alright. I'm not particularly bothered. You could swap this up for a Core i7-3770K, although it is more expensive, or you could go from the AMD equivalent. However, this particular chip does beat its AMD counterpart. Next we have the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo. This is a CPU cooler from Cooler Master. As I plan on overclocking this, I will probably need some aftermarket cooling to keep it nice and cool, to make it perform well. Next we went for 12GB of 1600 MHz memory from Corsair. This is Corsair Vengeance memory. It also looks great and it's a solid performer. We went for an EVGA GTX 660 Superclocked edition for the graphics card, 2GB of GDDR5 memory. It's from EVGA, and they had a special offer when I was buying the parts for this build. That's why I went for the 660. If not, I was probably going to go for the 680 or the AMD equivalent. Next we have the Asus GeForce 8500 GT 1GB graphics card. Now the reason I got this is because, well, I didn't buy it actually, it was from an old build, so I'm just including it in this to just boost the performance. That'll be underneath the 660. It's just from an old build, it's not in use, so I just thought I may as well chuck it in there. Next we have an OCZ Agility 3 60GB SSD. So this will be for the operating system, and it is SATA 3, so we should get some good read-write speeds and basically speed up Windows in every way possible. Next, Seagate Barracuda 2TB hard disk drive. Running at 7,200 RPM, it's a good drive, plenty of storage for anything else you'll need. It's media, programs, etc. Although you can put some of the programs that you want to launch very quickly on the SSD, for example a browser or frequently used programs. Next we have the Samsung DVD burner. Pretty generic. Get a Blu-ray drive if you want, and you don't even have to get this. It's just personally what I want. Next we have the Zolman Z11 Plus PC case. Now this case also looks pretty cool, as well as it has two LED fans which are blue, and I plan on putting some LED strip lights in the case to make it look quite cool, because it has a smoked window on the left hand side which will be visible, so you can just see the parts, as well as it has 2 USB 3 ports, 2 USB 2s, microphone, headphones, and that's on the front, and the design is quite nice of this case. Also it's quite well priced. Next we go for the Corsair CX 750W non-modular PSU. This is a solid power supply. It's 80 plus bronze, so it's quite efficient, and it is from the reviews very reliable. However, it is non-modular, so cable management not a big deal for me. It won't be as great as a modular power supply. Next we went for Windows 7 Ultimate 64-bit operating system. So Windows 7, you can go for Windows 8, you can go for Windows Vista, although I wouldn't recommend it. You can go for whatever operating system you want, Linux, it's up to you. I chose Windows 7 Ultimate. Okay, so this is stage 1 of the build, and you're going to want to get your motherboard and put it on a desk or a hard surface, like a wooden floor or something like that. And we're going to be interested in the CPU bracket for this part of the build. It should have come with something like this in place where the CPU socket was. Just remove it. I don't know how to put it back in, so I removed it first before filming it. And then you want to get your CPU, which is an Intel Core i5-3570K in my case, and you're going to want to fit it in here. Now Techniques before you do this: make sure you do not touch the gold pins on the socket or the gold connectors on the back of the CPU. Also, just hold it by the sides and make sure it's aligned properly before inserting it. To do this, you're going to want to see here is a golden triangle. You want to make that go in the bottom left hand corner of the bracket. As you can see here, there's a similar triangle here. Also, there are two half moon notches here on the side of the CPU. They're the same in the socket, so make sure you get it around the right way around. And also the Intel, it has some writing on it, Intel Core i5 3570K on it. That will be the right way up. So it's the ASUS logo, it will be the same orientation as that. So we're going to go ahead and put this into the socket now. Okay, so we have the socket here, and first thing we're going to do is we're going to want to open the socket by pulling this pin back, and like that we can open the socket. So we have our CPU here, which we're going to take out of its box now. So here is the CPU, and we're just going to place that into the socket. It's the correct orientation, and we're just going to place that in there without any force. Then we're going to bring down the bracket, ensuring that the CPU is in place. Bring it down like that, hold the motherboard steady, and bring the pin down. There you go, the CPU is installed. Okay, for the next stage we're going to be installing our heatsink, our CPU cooler. There are two ways of doing this basically. If you're not that interested in overclocking and you just want normal heat cooling, go for the Intel heatsink, which comes with the CPU. It should have thermal paste installed. I've taken it off this one as I won't be using it. And basically it just goes in, these won't be there, and you just push them in and turn them and it should lock in place. However, we are going to be using today a Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo because I'm going to be overclocking and I want to get the max out of the system. So you could have gone for a Corsair water cooling kit, something like that, but they're more expensive, and this is probably the best air cooler you can get. So now, take a look at the massive metallic copper heatsink, and we want to decide first which way around it we want to put it. So this is the back of the case, this is the front of the case. We don't really want to be putting it here because we need room for our memory. So I'm going to put it this way around, and I'm going to have the fan facing this way. Because at the back of the case there is an exhaust fan, you don't want to have, this is an intake fan, you don't want to have it sucking in air when this is trying to take air out. So we're going to have the intake here. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take the CPU and we're going to apply some thermal paste. This will help spread it, so when we put it down it will spread the thermal paste before we then go and attach it in place and attach the fan. So I might speed up this process as it can be quite long, and it's already actually half done. I have installed the mounting brackets there. So I'm going to go ahead and put some thermal paste on now and install the CPU cooler. So first I just need to check what degree this needs to go to. I believe that's right. Okay, so something like that. And then we're going to get the heatsink. Just make sure both of the CPU and the contact is clean before putting on some thermal paste. I use the P method, so you put a pea-sized blob of thermal paste on the CPU. In the middle of the CPU. Should be enough. Okay. Then I'm going to take the lid and replace that, sorry. Then I'm going to take the heatsink and then I'm going to lower it on before fixing it in place with a screwdriver, because these need screws, which I'm going to get in a minute. There we go. And yeah, also we need to take into account that this will allow the this thing to go in one way, so putting that in there and making sure that's right. Right. Okay, so the heatsink is in place. Now we need to go and tighten these screws, making sure we do them equally. So now we're going to be installing the fan that goes on the heatsink. So just have a look, I've installed the heatsink now, and it should have spread that thermal paste nicely. We're going to take the fan here and we're going to just clip it onto the heatsink. Relatively simple. Spin it round and find the CPU fan header. The CPU fan header arrow points here. Install that. Connect it. There we go, that's connected. So now the CPU heatsink and fan are both connected, and this will allow for some better overclocking. Okay, so the next stage is we're going to be installing our memory. We're going to go for 12 gigabytes of Corsair Vengeance random access memory at 1600 megahertz. So this has a nice metallic heatsink, Corsair logo and Vengeance logo, with the gold connectors along the bottom. These blue ones are 4 gigabyte sticks, and the black ones over here are 2 gigabyte sticks. So we're going to be using the dual channel memory feature on this motherboard. So we're going to basically take the black memory sticks and be slotting in there. Careful to notice where the notch is and line that up with where the notch is on the sockets, ensuring you get it the right way around. So take the stick, which was lined, and install it. There you go. Now take the blue one. Ensure where the notch is. Take the stick and install it. Another black stick. Find the notch and install it. There we go. Finally, the last stick. Find the notch and install it. There we go, we now have 12 gigabytes of RAM installed. Okay, so this is the next stage in the build, and you're going to want to get your case, the Zolman Z11 Plus here, and you're going to want to get your power supply. In this case, a Corsair CX 750 watt PSU, non-modular. So what we want to do is we're going to take the power supply, find out which orientation round you want to put it, and then you're going to want to install it, screw it in at the back. It's pretty simple installation. So in my case, I'm going to go and put the power supply in this orientation, pushing it in into the back before we're going to screw it in. So we're going to take all the cables. Also, you want to get your power supply screws so you can screw it in at the back. Okay, so you've got your power supply in here, and you're going to want to find the holes where these screws line up. Once you find that, you're going to take your screws and gently push them into the holes and screw them in a little bit. Do these to all four, or if your power supply and your case has more, use as many as possible to ensure that your power supply is securely fitted. Okay, so in this stage we're going to be installing our motherboard into our case. Now initially find a good place to grip your motherboard. Now since I have a very large heatsink, I can hold it by the heatsink. Just be careful as well though that it is correctly installed before just holding it by the heatsink in case it just falls off. So next we want to go and we want to install these risers for the motherboard. You want to make sure you do install them, otherwise it can lead to issues. So you want to find them, they'll be in your motherboard box, and you want to go ahead and install them on the back of the case, like so. I've already installed them, they're pretty simple, just screw them in. So then we're going to find our I/O port shield thing. So this also comes with the motherboard. We're going to take this and we're going to ensure that it is the right orientation. So find out which way your motherboard goes in and put it in like that. So the writing will be facing the correct way up when the tower is up. So in this case I'm going to go ahead and put the shield in. Just clicks in. Go. And now we're going to go and get the motherboard and put it in. But before we do this, just make sure all the cables, the case cables, the power supply cables are out the way, so you don't have issues when installing the power with the motherboard. Here we go. Here's the motherboard, and now just making sure once again that the ports are aligned with the shield that you've just fitted. And as you can see, you should be able to see the risers when you align the board finally. Spend a little bit of time doing this, make sure it's all correctly aligned before fastening the motherboard into the case, because you want to make sure that you can see all the outputs through the shield. There we go. So now all the risers are aligned with the motherboard, and we can start to screw in the motherboard using the screws that the motherboard came with. So here are the screws that the motherboard came with. I'm going to fasten the motherboard. Again, using the same technique we've used for the CPU cooler and the power supply, by going opposite corners first. So gently screw it in before tightening it. And be careful when screwing them in, as there are sensitive parts around the motherboard. Right, so the next step after we've secured the motherboard down is to install the graphics card or cards. In this case I'll be going for an Asus GeForce 8500 GT. This is one from my old build. And my other card I'll be going for, which is the main card, is the EVGA GTX 660 Superclocked Edition. So this is a, on the back it has DVI, 2 DVI ports, mini display port, and HDMI. So we're going to go ahead and put this into my first PCI Express slot. Now I have 3 of these, a black one here, white one here, and a dark blue one here. Also here I have taken out the, well, I don't know what you'd call them, but the things that block the actual card from going through to the back, the I/O shield thing. So I've taken the ones out that I need, and I'm going to also I've taken a few more out just for better ventilation. So I'm going to install the card now. Just take note which way around you're putting the card. So here is the notch, and my PCI Express slot is this system that you push down as like a latch sort of thing. So I'm going to push the card in now, aligning it with the back. Now just make sure it clicks. Okay, so the card is in now. First thing I'm going to do is, well, this is unique to the case you have. So for my case, I have a screw that will let it be secure in place and make sure it doesn't bend the PCI Express slot. So just aligning the card, and then I'm going to just screw that in there. And the next thing I'm going to need to do is find the PCI Express power cable. So here it is, and this is the one I'll be using. I have another 3 spare that I won't be needing because my other graphics card doesn't need it. So I'm going to plug this in when we do the cable management, not at the moment. So next we're going to install the next card, which is the 8500 GT. As you can see here, it's quite dusty because it's from an old build, as I said. So we're going to install this in the bottom port just to make sure we've got enough room for the 660 to breathe. Or we could put it in the white port. No, I think I'll put it in the white port actually. The second port, the middle port. So I'm just going to align it. And push it in. Okay, so the card is now installed, and the latch is latched onto it. I'm going to take the screw for the case and this GPU graphics card, and I'm going to screw that tight. Okay, so the next step is going to be, we're going to plug in for the 660 the PCI Express power slot, which will be in the cable management step. So that is it. You have now installed 2 graphics cards, the EVGA GTX 660 and the Asus GeForce 8500 GT. So go through, we've put the CPU in, the CPU cooler, installed the RAM, installed 2 graphics cards, and the motherboard is now inside the case, and also the power supply. So next step, we're going to have a look at the hard drives and the solid state drives that we'll be using. Right, so now we have everything else installed, we're going to now install the solid state drive and the hard disk drive. My choices, as I said previously, are the OCZ Agility 3 60GB solid state drive. So I'm going to be using this for the operating systems and a few essential programs. You could probably go for a higher capacity drive, but this one was the cheapest one, and I don't really need that much SSD storage. So I'm going to, it actually is the drive is too small to actually just go in the slots. So what you have to do is they provide usually a bracket which you can then slide in there. But this bracket even still is a little bit small for the screws that my case uses. So I've had to just take the Phillips head screws and mount them in there. So it's a little bit makeshift, but it's not really a problem. Alternatively, you don't even have to mount your SSD there. You can just stick it here or stick it somewhere around the case, because it's not a moving part. It's not going to require any stability. So I will just put it here. Okay, next we're going to be installing our hard disk drive, which is a Seagate Barracuda 2TB hard drive. So this runs at 7,200 RPM, and what I've done along the edges, it comes with screws which I have put in, and these are basically dampeners, so you won't hear the vibrations as the drive is moving. So just making it a little bit quieter. So we're going to take the SATA and power connectors, and we're going to face them that way, and we're going to put the drive in, making sure we leave enough room for the other drive. Let them a bit of space to breathe. Might even go one below that. Okay, so now the drive is in, and we're just going to put one screw in there to secure it. Okay, so now we're back around the So in the back of the case we have our power SATA cable here, and we have our two drives, a hard disk drive and our solid state drive, which is here. I'm going to now get my two SATA connectors, making sure these are SATA 3, both of them, because both drives do support a SATA 3 6 gigabit per second read-write time speed thing. So these are the white ones, not necessarily white, but in this case they are just white ones. So we're going to use the right-angled one for the drive and the straight connector for the motherboard. So in this case the motherboard has two SATA 3 6 gigabit and four SATA 3 and four SATA 2. So we want to be using SATA 3 for these. We're going to connect the SATA cables to the drives now. Okay, so this next stage, along with the graphics card, are both optional. Now you can put a Blu-ray drive if you want. You can put a DVD burner, as I'm going to put, or you don't have to have anything there. But I'm going to use this for quite a few things. So yeah, I have taken out the first panel cover that I want. So this is where the drive is going to go. So it's a very simple process. Just slide it in, and then you have to go around and get the screws that came with the drive and screw it in. Okay, so after we've screwed in the DVD burner, we're going to connect a SATA power connected to it. Okay. Now that is installed, we're going to get our other SATA connector. This is a SATA 2, 3 gigabit per second. Sorry, SATA 3. Well, it's the lower speed SATA cable, and we're going to take the right-angled bit and connect it to the DVD burner. Okay, and now we're going to have the normal end of the SATA connector and plug it into the motherboard. It doesn't really matter which socket we put it into. Dark blue one's fine. And there we go. Okay, so the next stage is we're going to take our case inputs and outputs and connect them to the motherboard. Now, cases vary, and you're going to have to look at the motherboard manual as well as the case manual a lot whilst doing this. So I've connected these case inputs into a adapter which was given in the motherboard box. So now we're going to, this goes here, but we just need to find out which way around it goes. It goes like that, and that has the power reset and the volume, that sort of stuff in there. Next is an HD audio adapter. So this is the microphone and headphones connector at the front of the case, I believe. Okay, so we've got the HD audio connected. Now we have the front USB 2s, which we're going to connect here in this blue socket. And finally we have the USB 3 from the case, the front two USB 3s. So I'm going to plug that into the connector on the motherboard now. There we go, that's now connected. Next we need to get the 24-pin motherboard adapter from the power supply. This is going to go directly into the motherboard. And there you have it. The motherboard now has power. Okay, now we're going to get the CPU header, and we're going to take it up along back around the back side of the case along to the top where it is needed. There we go. the CPU header is now connected. Next step, we need to go and get our PCI Express and connect it to our graphics card. This is not for all graphics cards, but for this particular one. Only thing we have left now that we need to use are the two string of Molex connectors, which we're going to connect to fans. Two of the fans are on the side panels of the case, so we can't connect those yet. But for the time being, we can connect fan here, and fan here, and our lights here. These, we have 3 spare PCI Express ports which we don't need, so we'll put them there. Put the rest of this cabling away in there, and we have finally, I'm going to take that round there and one here, because the side panels of the case, they have fans in them which use Molex connectors, but I'm not going to do that yet. First, I'm going to get some cable ties and tie a few cables up to make it look a little bit neater and to improve airflow a little bit. My cable management isn't great, as I've said, and I don't really care about it, but I'll just do it because of the airflow. Right, so the moment of truth now, will this thing actually start? So everything's in and connected. Let's see if this thing starts. So let's turn it on. We've connected the power cable, and we'll turn it on. The LED is flashing there, that's a good sign. And now we will go and turn on the system. There we go. Perfect. Everything's working, all the fans are spinning. And it's just doing the Asus double boot, sorry. There we go. Or even triple boot, it may reboot again. As you can see, the case looks a little bit messy with all these cables, but as I say again, I'm not really a big cable management person. If I was, I would have got a modular PSU, but I know I'm going to get loads of hate for it. My cable management is shocking. But if we have a look around the other side, this is basically all my cables background here. You can see just the extent of all these cables leading back around the edges. So yeah, that is it. That is the PC done. Now I'm not going to go through and install the OS because that's pretty simple and straightforward if you're doing it normally. And I'm going to connect it up to the monitors now and install the drivers, etc. So thank you very much for watching again, and if you enjoyed, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and comment, tell me anything you want, any requests for videos down below, and tell me what you think of this video. And yeah, if you're interested in more like this, please subscribe. Thank you for watching.